afternoon, friends. Miss Quast here, continuing in our Read Aloud series, and we're going to continue with a biography. And a biography is an account of someone's life, but it's written by someone else. And we're going to continue reading about Jane Goodall. And this book is called Me, Jane by Patrick McDonnell. And the title is kind of an homage to Tarzan. Tarzan would refer to himself, he'd say, "Me, Tarzan," as he said his name. So this is Jane. And this book is a Caldecott Honor book, and that means that it's being recognized internationally because of its beautiful, detailed illustrations. And there's really great pictures in this book. There's real-life pictures of Jane Goodall. There's illustrations, and there's actually illustrations that Jane herself made when she was 9 or 10 years old. And so this is a really cool book. I hope you enjoy it. Me, Jane. And this is one of the examples of a real photograph, and this is Jane when she's a young girl with her beloved chimpanzee Stuffy. Jane had a stuffed toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. She cherished Jubilee and took him everywhere she went, and Jane loved to be outside. So even as a young girl, she enjoyed being outside in her yard in England. She watched birds making their nests, spiders spinning their webs, and squirrels chasing one another up and down the trees. And always Jubilee is with her. Jane learned all that she could about the animals and plants she studied in her backyard and read about in books. So she's brought collections in, and she started a journal, a scientific journal that records all of her findings, the notes, what they look like, where she found them. So these are from her actual journals as a girl. And she had a society called the Alligator Society, and it was an animal club. So she's got alligators, she made wild bird puzzles, she has clips from different encyclopedias that she's included, she has a cobras page, and she's always asking questions. What do mice eat? What do crows eat? What is a baby dog called? So scientists are always asking questions and wanting to learn more. Red wings, different sizes of animals, and look at the sizes of their brains. That's neat. Different profiles of animals here. One day, curious Jane wondered where eggs came from, so she and Jubilee snuck into Grandma Nut's chicken coop. And if you read The Watcher with me, that's the same starting of the book The Watcher. Hid behind some straw, stayed very still. So she has to be very patient. She's only a young girl. She's only 5 here. And she's sneaking into the coop, and she has to be so quiet for the hens to go in so she can see how they lay their eggs. She observed the miracle. And here, the mother hen has laid an egg. It was a magical world full of joy and wonder, and Jane felt very much a part of it. Jane often climbed her favorite tree, which she named Beech. She would lay her cheek against its trunk and seem to feel the sap flowing beneath the bark. So a beech tree is a large tree, and this was her favorite one that she would climb with Jubilee. Jane could feel her own heart beating, beating, beating. You can see it swelling with love for nature. With the wind in her hair, she read and reread the books about Tarzan of the Apes, in which another girl, also named Jane, lived in the jungles of Africa. She read from an early age and longed to go to the places she read about in these books, to see the different forests and wild creatures. Jane dreamed of a life in Africa too. And look at through her imagination, she's bringing Africa to the English countryside. A life of living with and helping all animals. So from an early age, Jane knew what she was meant to do with her life, and it was to help animals and learn all she could from them. At night, Jane would tuck Jubilee into bed, say her prayers, and fall asleep. I wonder what she'll dream of. To awake one day. Now you'll notice she's a grown woman now, and she's not in her bedroom anymore. I see a lamp, a small cot, and the forest outside. To her dream come true. And this is an actual photograph of Jane Goodall and in a place called Gombe in Africa, interacting with what looks like a really young chimpanzee. So her childhood dream came true, and she was able to move to Tanzania to study the chimpanzees. Now the thing I like about this book is it has some information at the end as well. And this is all about Jane Goodall. When Jane Goodall was 10 years old, she decided that when she grew up, she would go to Africa, live with the animals, and write about them. Almost everyone told her this goal was impossible. Her family had little money, and she was a girl in a time when girls were not encouraged to pursue adventurous careers. But her mother encouraged her to follow her dream. When Jane finished school, she continued to learn about Africa and worked hard to save enough money to go there. She finally arrived in 1957, met famous anthropologist Louis Leakey, and began studying chimpanzees at the Gombe Stream Game Reserve, now known as the Gombe Stream National Park, in Tanzania in 1960. So women weren't encouraged to go on big adventures. Her family had little money for her to go to university and study, so she knew she had to work hard to beat the odds. One of Jane's most important observations was her discovery that chimpanzees were able to make and use tools. Until this time, experts thought only humans were able to do so. But based on Jane's remarkable studies, the world was forced to rethink what makes humans different from animals. She wrote about these discoveries and countless other observations in her 1986 book, The Chimpanzees of Gombe: Patterns of Behavior. Today, Jane travels around the world raising awareness about the plight of chimpanzees and environmental conservation. That means to protect the environment. Human populations are growing. The forests in Africa where chimpanzees live are being cut down, and chimps and other animals are being hunted for food. She set up the Jane Goodall Institute, or the JGI, an organization that helps communities near wild places grow more food, have clean water, and send children to school, while also teaching people how to protect the nearby wildlife. Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program has been set up to educate young people everywhere about the world's environmental and social problems and empower them to take action. This growing organization operates in more than 120 countries, and there are tens of thousands of members ranging in age from preschoolers to university students. And you can learn more by going to www.rootsandshoots.org and www.janegoodall.org. She knows that it's so important if she wants her research and her love of wildlife to continue that she needs to educate you, the young people, to make change. And here at the back of the story is a special message from Jane Goodall herself. Each one of us makes a difference. We cannot live through a single day without making an impact on the world around us, and we have a choice as to what sort of difference we make. The life of each one of us matters in the scheme of things, and I encourage everyone, especially young people, to make the world a better place for people, animals, and the environment. Children are motivated when they can see the positive results their hard work can have. As I travel, I meet hundreds of Roots and Shoots groups. They are always eager to tell Dr. Jane what they've been doing and how they are making a difference in their communities. whether they've done something simple like recycling or collecting trash, or something that requires a great deal of effort like restoring a wetland or raising money for street children or a local dog shelter. They are a continual source of inspiration for me and for other children around the world. I invite you to get involved. Love, Jane. And so you can make a change locally here. You can pick up trash, something small. You can collect food and money for the local SPCA. And Jane challenges you to be an earth warrior just like she is. And one last illustration from Jane Goodall's own journal. And it says, this page features a cartoon that Jane Goodall made of her life in the forest at the Gombe Stream Game Reserve. Readers will also find two facing pages of drawings and puzzles that Jane herself created when, as a young girl, she led a club called the Alligator Society. Throughout the book, ornamental engravings from the 19th and 20th centuries are included, collectively evoking Jane's lifelong passion for detailed scientific observation of nature. And I'll zoom it in so you can see her picture. And look, she's put herself in the tree, and look, she has a chimpanzee in her tent, having a nice cup of tea and enjoying a nice book. She's switched their roles. Thanks for listening. What can you do to be an earth warrior?